I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, a nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Calling the roll, Tracy Grove,
Here.
Fred Sotomayor,
Here.
Dewey Robbins is absent. Terry Kamali,
Here.
Kay Jones present. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for our review, adjusting, and approving our agenda and consent items.
I move that we accept the agenda and consent item as presented. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to accept the agenda and consent items as they're presented. Tracy Rowe,
Aye.
Fred Sotomayor,
Aye.
Terry Kamali,
Aye.
Kay Jones, aye. Motion carried. And at this time, we're going on to spotlight on education, and we're looking at the youth truth data.
I'm back.
Good to see you.
Are you tired of seeing me yet? I'm gonna take the silence as yes. As short as I can.
It's always a pleasure.
I left that today. I walked through the door to set up and the first comment I heard was, wait, where's the little one? He is not so little anymore. All right. So tonight I get to share with you guys some more exciting youth truth data. I'm really excited about tonight's data because I feel like it sheds a lot of light on some stuff that we have happening in October, but also gives us really great guidelines of the direction that we've been heading in a good direction so far. So tonight I'm going to show you some of the data that we got back from our students. And then I'm also going to compare this data with the family data that I shared with you guys last month. And I think that you will find this data insightful and interesting, because I know I did. And then I'm also going to go over some of the amazing actions that we've put into place since getting this data in November. Okay, that's all the teaser I'm going to give you. We're going to get right into it this time. And as I do with any data that I'm sharing with people, I want to give that information of what the data is that we took. So with this, for the student survey, we had a really great participation rate. We had 89%. I'm not saying, and I'm failing miserably tonight. We had 89% of our elementary school population take it. We had 81% of our high school, and our middle school knocked it out of the park with a whopping 118% participation. One class accidentally took it twice. And unfortunately, because this is anonymous, there was no way for us to take out that data. So we're gonna have to take it in. We take that with a grain of salt, and it's data nonetheless, right? The students felt one way, and maybe the data they took it the second time they felt different or the same. It doesn't matter. It's still data. And like last month, the numbers I'm showing you tonight are percentages that represent the number of participants that chose an agree or strongly agree, so 4 or 5 out of the total number of participants per school. And similar to last month, the data that you will see tonight are direct screenshots from the Youth Truth Survey. The only thing that I've added are color-coded boxes because there is a lot of data and colors make everything fun and interesting and easier to read. And speaking of those colors, I want to share how those are laid out. So when looking at when looking at this year's data, let's see if the speak properly with me. Nope, it won't. This year's scores are in the green, yellow, red column or the section. Green is anything over 60%. Yellow is 26 to 59, and anything 25% or below is in red. And then the second column over is comparing this data to last year. You might see any of these symbols. The star represents an increase of 20% or more from last year. I don't think we'll see any of them in my presentation tonight, but I do encourage you to look at the full survey because there are tons of stars in different other categories that I didn't pull from for today. A green arrow up means that I see that you have a question.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
A green arrow up means that we've increased from the previous year. Red arrow down means we've decreased. And then if you see a red arrow down with a red box, that means that we've decreased 15% or more from the previous year. This is very different from the family survey that we took because the family survey we only did this year. We don't have data to compare it to last year, whereas the student and staff data we do. So that's the difference in the color coding boxes. And then you'll also see that we've disaggregated or broke down the data into grade levels so that we can really pinpoint where our struggling parts are at specifically. And with those, you'll see a yellow box if they have a 30 to 39% or a red box around it if it has 29% or low. And that's just so that when you're looking at the overall data, that's the one that pulls your attention to it so you really know that's what we need to focus on. Okay, let's get into the data. So remember that last month, I talked about how we pulled specific topics from the Youth Truth Survey that directly tie in with our strategic plan. That way we can really focus and dive into the parts that are driving our district forward. That doesn't mean that we're not looking at all the data because we have many times gone back to the data in all parts. But for the sake of time and energy in this meeting, we're really just presenting the stuff that focuses with that strategic plan. And then you'll have the data to access in full once I post it. Well, my goal is tomorrow, by Friday at the latest, but tomorrow is my goal. So the first topic that we're focusing on is relationships. That's the Youth Truth topic. And that topic ties directly in with focus area number 4, which is building community partnerships. And listed here are all of the questions that the students were asked. To save my voice from speaking all of these, I'm going to give you a moment to kind of read through and see what your questions are. And I do want to note they are slightly different for elementary versus middle and high school. And a lot of that is because you're asking 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders these questions. So I think it'd be appropriate. Oh. All right, I'm going to move forward. So we're going to start as I normally do with the elementary school. And this is the data that we took from our elementary and then comparing it to our family data. This also gives me the opportunity to really hone down into what those color codes and those symbols mean. So for example, you will see the first column is the question. The second column is how we scored this year. So that's the percentage of students the percentage of 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders that gave that question a 4 or a 5, agree or strongly agree. And then the last column is comparing us to how we scored on it last year. The green box tells you that it is 60% or above, and then yellow would be that 59 to 26%. Then next to that, you have your green and red arrows to show you the difference between last year and this year. Then if we disaggregate or break that data down into our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, that's usually where we can really see the difference between how each grade level is doing. And the reason I did that is because what you'll see later on is some of this data really hones into like one specific grade is struggling more than others, or one specific grade is grading a lot higher than others. What kind of information are we gaining from that data? So with this one, for example, if you see that first question, do you like how your teacher treats you when you need help? Last year, we had 79% of students say that they agreed or strongly agreed. This year, we've bumped it up to 84, which is awesome. And I do want to note that a lot of these, or all of these questions for space-wise, I took out the parts that say compared to a typical Youth Truth and compared to a typical Oregon, which you can see on the full report. But so far, with all of the data that I'm going to show you tonight, we are very comparable to a typical school, even in our low areas. We're very comparable to a typical U-Truth and a typical Oregon school, which is reassuring that it's not just us who are struggling with certain areas or that are exceeding in certain areas. We're right on track with others. So, I just want to look through my notes, sorry. Okay, so with this one, when we're looking at our parent survey, which is that bottom section, that's what we scored when we did the similar but not the same questions on our parents. So the two questions that I chose that are comparable are teachers and students care about each other, and I feel comfortable approaching my teacher about my child's progress. So how do the kids feel about their relationship with the teachers, and then how do the parents feel about the relationships with students and teachers and with parents and teachers? For the elementary school, it's pretty comparable. We have 75% that feel that students and teachers care about each other. And we've got, do you think your teacher cares about you? And 84% of our students agree with that or strongly agree with that statement. So we're right on track with that. And then does your teacher give you extra help if you need it? We had, so 80, 70 something percent say that they agree or strongly agree, which is interesting compared to the 45%. So that would be where we look at our disaggregated data. You can see that our fifth graders feel really comfortable asking their teacher for help, but our third and fourth graders aren't quite there yet. And remember, this was done in October. So one thing that you'll hear me say throughout today's presentation is I can't wait to do a follow-up survey with our students, because we did this in October. So now that we've implemented stuff, now that our kids know who their teacher is, they know the expectations, they know how things are run in school, how do they feel now? Do they still feel uncomfortable asking their teacher for help, or has that changed dramatically? Which I expect it would, because kids are nervous when you teach for the first time. You've only been in there for 5 weeks, 4 weeks by the time we took the survey, so they're just not quite sure who that teacher is. So one thing I'm going to follow up with each of these is, what are we doing? Because this data means nothing if we don't do anything with it. And I want to remind you that we've had this data since November. So once we got it, we looked at it, we disaggregated it. That's when we started putting things into place, some actions that we can do to really help support and make sure that when we take this follow-up survey, we've got improved numbers. So at the elementary school, we have things like PACS, which is a school-wide or building-wide behavior system that helps make sure that students understand the expectation regardless of what classroom they're in, regardless of if they're outside at recess or in the bathrooms or in the hallways or in music or PE, it's always the same expectation. And that's what's really going to help make sure that they have the same respect and the same relationships with their teachers, regardless of where they're at. That kind of helps build it. We also have our teachers have been doing a 3-2-1 insight, which is helping to teach teachers how to work with students that have been or trauma-informed teachers. And that's what helps those teachers build relationships with the kids so they feel comfortable in their learning environment. They feel comfortable with things like asking their teacher for help. Moving on to the middle school, same setup. This time you'll notice in the disaggregated or the breakdown data that we've got those yellow and red boxes. So we'll look at those in a moment. So you can see that with the middle school, yeah, it is mostly yellow, but look at all those green arrows. Look at how much we've grown since last year. And that's the one thing that I love seeing with the comparing it to last year is we have so much growth compared to last year. So, and then again with this, all of our numbers are within 5 to 6% of a typical U-Truth and a typical Oregon school. So even these areas that we see, like how many of your teachers try to understand what your life is like outside of school, 30% feels pretty low, but that's within 5 to 6% of a typical Oregon and a typical U-Truth school. So those are numbers that we're seeing across the state. And that one in particular was one that I wanted to look a little more into. And I want to mention that this didn't shock me, but when I started looking at the written comments, you could see students say stuff like, my teacher doesn't need to know about my life outside of school. Okay, that makes sense. You're going into preteen age. Nobody cares about, like, no one needs to care about my life but me. But we have to make sure that our teachers are showing the kids that they care, right? So in this, when we look at this data in the very initial look through, you can see that the kids feel like their teachers believe they have to try in order to get a good grade, but that stays in school. And once anything is talked about outside of school life, they don't feel like there's a connection there. And again, this is in October. So I'm really eager to see what those numbers would look like I think we're doing this in April, March or April is when we're hoping to do the next follow-up survey. And then when we break it down even more, I want to really point out how many of your teachers connect what you're learning in class with your life outside of school. If you look at the breakdown data, 12% of 8th grade compared to 42% of 6th grade. And across almost all of our data, that seems to be consistent. Our 8th graders had pretty low scores, our 6th graders had pretty high scores. So that's where you look at it and go, well, why is that? Why is it that our 8th graders are feeling a little more not as positive about our school as our 6th graders are? Well, maybe it's, think about what our 8th graders have gone through over the last 2 years. 2 years of COVID school. They went from an elementary where they're in person all the time to online learning to partial online learning. And now we're back to like normal school. That would be kind of hard to get into. What are the expectations? How do I build that relationship with my teacher? Do they really care? I totally understand that. So that would be really fun to see when we get that follow-up data. Do they still feel like that now that teachers have built relationships, they've established expectations, they have those normal routines in their classrooms? What does that look like? And speaking of, what does that look like? The one thing that I know the middle school has really been working on this year is increasing their communication when it comes to their students and their families. And Mr. Jansen has really been working on setting up their Jefferson Middle School Facebook page. They're posting to it with student work, athletic stuff, student achievements. You can see up here the picture I snagged from their header, like the fun staff events that they're doing to build that community within their staff. They have competitions. It's so much fun to walk into that school. You can tell the culture difference compared to 2 years ago when we were in this isolation, stay 6 feet apart. These kids are becoming a bigger part of their community and it's noticeable. So the communication piece, that building relationships, that building that culture is really important. So then looking at your high school data, we have, so this relationship piece. This is where I want to bring in that reminder of when we took this survey, right? We didn't just take this survey in October, but we also just so happened to take this survey during a safety crisis that was not planned. But this is data nonetheless. So we've got how many of your students make an effort, or how many, sorry, of your teachers make an effort to understand what your life is like outside of school. Again, I had comments like, my teachers don't need to be involved in my life outside of school. So those kind of things that were like, okay, so teenagers, like, this is my life, don't worry about me. But the other thing that we saw a common thread was the need for that mental health support. So the comments about, I wish that my teacher knew the stresses that I have outside of school when they're assigning work to me or when they have these expectations. So you've got the side of students that are like, don't talk to me, my life is my life. And then you have the side of students that are like, but I want you to be involved enough that I know that you care about me. And that's where I know that the school has been working the hardest on. I'm gonna jump forward and then I'll jump back to give you guys time to look at it. But I want to jump forward because I'm pointing out this Facebook again, but the reason I'm doing this is because the one thing that the high school has been doing that I absolutely love is they have put their high school students in charge of their Facebook page. The students are the one creating the videos. The students are the ones creating the content. The adults in charge is the one making sure that it's obviously appropriate, school appropriate, matches the message we want to get across, but it has that ownership. And they're not only doing this, but I'll later show you some slides of different things that they're doing to help build that community within their school. They've got door decoration competitions. They have posters and boards all around that are decorated by the students. They have so much student involvement in that school now that wasn't there in October per se. So it is something that they're massively building up on. So flipping back to the data, the one thing that I saw with, where's my point? So with this data showing that our students feel like the teachers know they need to try in order to get a good grade. This follows with the similar to the middle school, but they don't feel like the teachers make an effort to understand what's happening outside of school or make that connection of what's happening outside of school in October. And looking at the data, like the difference between 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, 11th grade was one that scored the lower one. So our 11th graders were the ones that had the less positive view of things. Which again, if you think about what have they been through over the last 2 years, they started their first year of high school in COVID situations, isolation, stay in your bubble. And then they've had 1 year where it's like half online, not quite sure what's going on. Now we're into the like real school. And I keep using air quotes because we're not quite back at where we were pre-pandemic. I don't know if we ever will be, but you can see that a lot of this mental health and the way that they view things and the way they see the school is visible within this data. Any questions so far? I asked that because, like I mentioned, this is a lot of data. We're only in part 2 of 3. So the next topic I'm covering tonight is safety. Safety ties in with focus area number 2, improving wellness, safety, and social and emotional learning. Safety in my presentation tonight is split into 2 topics. This topic, which is safety, and then the second one, which is bullying. And that's because on YouTube, those are 2 separate, when they separate the data out, those are 2 separate columns. And I want to make sure that I cover both of those because those are the 2 that we covered in our family survey. So again, these are the list of questions that the students were asked, and to grade this on a scale of 1 to 5. And I'll give you a moment to read through those. All right, I'm going to move forward. Because this is a much longer list of questions, I wanted to put this up here to remind you guys of what the community said when we reviewed this data last month. So with this slide, we had 46% of our respondents on the family surveys say for the elementary school, they felt like it was a safe place for their child to learn. So 46% of respondents felt the elementary school is a safe place to learn. So then we asked our elementary students, do you feel safe when you're at school? And then we narrowed that down even more. Do you feel safe in the hallways? Do you feel safe in the bathroom? What about the playground? How about when you're going to school? And we stayed the same at our 66%. The other 4 questions don't have, it has an NA next to it because Youth Truth decided this year to really dive into deeper question of just, do you feel safe in school? But let's figure out where are the parts that you're lacking or where are the parts that you need extra supporting, which is really helpful because if you look at our data, you can see that the one thing they scored the lowest on is the bathroom. And honestly, that makes sense because you don't typically have a teacher standing in the bathroom making sure kids are using the bathroom appropriately. And when kids are deciding to be naughty, where's the one place that they be naughty at is typically in the bathroom, right? That's usually where we have the most incidences happen, whether that be property damage or whatever that is. So that's where the kids can be the sneakiest. However, if you look at this, we have 66% of our students say that they feel safe in school. And when you break this down even more, you can see that our 3rd graders really feel safe, that our 4th and 5th graders are comparable. And then if you look at the bathroom one, they're really all the same, right? So our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders all are really close within arm's reach of each other of where the bathroom problem lies. But this is pretty typical for elementary school, I feel like. Bathrooms and playground, those are the 2 areas that I saw were the lowest. So the one thing that we're doing with the bathroom piece is that PACS school-wide behavior program, so that expectation. Students understand where the expectation or what the expectations are regardless of where they are at. But I want to go on to the playground aspect because the Oregon State University and PACE worked with with all of our schools, but with our elementary school to help them refine how to effectively use the playground. And with that, Mr. Sullivan has been able to put into place some actions to help make sure that these kids are playing and they're getting that energy out, but they're doing it in a safe, more controlled environment. So he has things like he split the playground into different zones. And if a student is being irresponsible or chaotic in a specific zone, maybe that's too high of a sensory for them. Okay, you're gonna take a break from this zone. I want you to go play over here, whether that be on the field or under the basketball court. And so it really helps the teachers gain a little bit more control. And then within that too, they've really been working on making sure that the teachers are playing with the students and not just acting as security guards and scaring the kids away, not like our teachers scare our kids away, but they're building that relationship with the kids in the environment that they really have the most fun in, right? Because learning can be fun, but let's be real, everybody loves the playground. Recess and lunch are usually the top two subjects when you ask them kindergartner through 5th grade. Within that too, they also have new games that are being taught to students to help make sure that our zones are equally spaced out there, like all of our kids going into one area. We have various games that our older kids are teaching the younger, and it's just building that really great culture. And then one thing that I'll note to all 3 of our buildings is the other safety piece that we're doing is we're practicing that new emergency action plan and communicating, making sure that that system is well rehearsed and practiced enough that our when and if something were to happen, our students know what to do. Moving on to the middle school. This is our reminder of our family data. So we had 28% of our family respondents, parents or and or guardians, say that they felt that the middle school is a safe place to learn. So 28%. And comparing that to students, this has a longer list of questions, but comparing that to students, we had 54%, which is only down by a smidge from last year, but 54% of our students feel safe in school. And again, if you look at this, hallways, bathrooms, and locker rooms are the lowest of the scores. But for the most part, we're in this anywhere between high 60s to the 80s. Our students are ultimately feeling fairly safe at school. It's just those bathrooms, which again, doesn't shock me. And then when you break this down, for example, the overall I feel safe in school, you can see that our 8th graders are the ones that gave us the lowest score compared to our 6th graders gave us the highest score. But our 6th graders are brand new to our middle school. So in October, they probably were like, life is great. Our 8th graders are still trying to figure out what does a non-COVID middle school look like? So what are those expectations? What are those things that we have to make sure that everybody is safe in? What can our students do to help advocate for themselves and advocate for each other? And speaking of that, looking into the stuff that our middle school is doing, the one thing that I mentioned in this one and in our next one is our weekly pride lessons that they're giving our students. This is not only talking about bullying prevention, but they're also teaching their students that culture of kindness and respect in hopes of fostering a really strong culture of kindness and respect within the entire building. And so within that, then we know we can start leading our students into a positive environment. These are some images that I got from our school counselor at the middle school of different activities that their pride lessons are working on. And the high school. This is our reminder for the family data. We had 24% of our respondents at the high school say that they felt that the high school was a safe place for their child. So 24%. And again, this is where we can, when you think about when this was taken, this was right during that safety crisis, that instance. So this wasn't very shocking that we went down to 27%. It's pretty comparable to how the families felt. That was a heated time of our history. You can see that, so overall we scored in the red, but for the most part, it's in the yellow. And then the good side is that when they feel safe going to and from school and the neighborhood they live in, like we know that our kids are safe as well. Adults, what was I going to point out? Okay, so our 10th graders on this one are the ones that were scoring the highest. And then again, our 12th graders, 11th and 12th grade were the ones scoring the lowest. So they were seeing what is a normal non-COVID non-crisis school look like? I'm really eager to see after the things that we put into place, like at the high school, they've really been working on those ruler lessons, regulating, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating their emotions. But they've also been doing weekly pride lessons as well, and they are practicing topics like practice self-care, managing anger, emotional regulation, and stress management, just to name a few of the ideas that they're helping to teach those students. When you get the ones that are having a rough time into a system where they feel comfortable to react appropriately to the emotions that they're feeling, then you know you can create a safe environment for all students. And I think that the high school has been doing a wonderful job at that. All right, our last topic is bullying. This also ties in with improving wellness, safety, and social and emotional learning within our schools. And we just had one question per school. So for the elementary, it was, has anyone bullied you at school in the last year? And for middle and high school, it was, during the school year, have other students bullied or harassed you? And then on these slides, I was able to fit both the family survey from last month and this one. So reminder, our question is, has anyone bullied you in the last year? Which honestly, you're asking a 3rd through 5th grader to reflect on something that happened a year ago. It's a little bit silly to me, but it's good information because you know that it's something that was either happened the day before they took this survey or possibly the week before they took this survey. This one, you really have to pay attention to the way that it's laid out because it is a little different than the percentages that I've been showing you before. But this says no, 48% of our students said no, they have not been bullied in school over the past year, compared to 27% that said yes, and 14% that said, I don't know. That is pretty interesting compared to the 52% of parents that stated that they felt their child was not safe from bullying. This is a complete flip. So we had 52% of parents say that they are not safe, but 48% of our students do feel safe. They don't feel like they have been bullied. The other thing that we looked at was, this is where their written comments really came into play, because as we were reading through those, a lot of those comments were a one-time event or a one student being mean to me this one time, telling me this. And so that really led to the conversation within administration of, we need to teach these kids what bullying is compared to what a conflict is or someone being mean to you. And then from there, how do we stop it? How do we prevent it? So these are snapshots of the actual curriculum from second steps that our elementary school has been using to help teach these kids, not just how to identify bullying compared to a one-time event, but also to help prevent and stop it from happening. These are just some examples. We do see a similar pattern at the middle school. So pay close attention because this one is flipped. They really tried to trick you on this one. But this says that 38% of our middle school students feel that they were bullied, compared to the 51% that said they were not, and the 11% that said they don't know if they were or not. And then we can compare this to the 54% of parents that said they felt their child was not safe for bullying. So if 54% of parents think their child is not safe from it or are being bullied, compared to the 51% of students that say they are not being bullied. So that again is a complete flip. So when we saw this data, one thing that we asked ourselves is like, why this disconnect? What's happening with this disconnect? And I want to point out one thing that I want to mention is that on our family survey, we had 24% of our families fill this out compared to the 80-90% that we had of our students. So I would be eager to know if we had more parents fill out this survey, how many other parents feel either the same way or differently than what's reflected on here. If we had a greater number of participants and our parents answering this survey, would we see different data? Would we see different numbers? Just a question that I have to ask, because when we're comparing 24% of information compared to 80-something, 90-something% information, that's a pretty big difference. All of that put aside, it doesn't mean that we don't do anything about it, right? Data is still important. So similar to the elementary school, the middle school found a need to teach our students what bullying is, how to identify it, how to stop it, how to prevent it. And so the middle school is also doing weekly pride lessons on things like bullying, self-regulation, and self-reflection, which is really nice. So these are some examples from our middle school counselor of things that she's been helping with her pride teachers complete during each week. And finally, we get to the high school. So I want to remind you again that our parents survey had, I have to look through this now. 61% of parents said that they felt their child was not safe from bullying at school. We have 20% of our high school students say that they feel like they have been bullied or harassed during the school year. Compared to the 72% that said they did not feel like they have been bullied or harassed. So again, that's a huge clip. So what is that disconnect? What is it that our parents are hearing and seeing that our kids are not conveying, or that our kids are not hearing or seeing in school? Is this that lack of having enough participants on our parent side? Is it the ones that, because usually when you offer, like, think about, I like to compare this to when you get an email from the grocery store and it says, hey, can you tell us how our service was? If your service was like good or par and it was average, you tend to be like, yeah, skip. But if you were really upset about it or really happy about it, that's usually when you answer those surveys. And I feel like with this being the first time we handed out to our parents, that might be the zone that we ended up getting. So it would be really great if we could get some more participation and see, and also to do this again when we're not in the middle of a safety crisis, how our students, are they still feeling this way, or has it changed at all? And like I mentioned before, we're doing those line pride lessons. But the high school has really been working hard on building that culture in that community. So having that empowerment with their students, taking ownership of that school. They're helping to decorate it. They're doing competitions. They're part of that community, which is really what we want. Because if they feel part of the community and they feel accepted, that tends to lessen the behavior problems that you have. And I know you're going to get tired of me saying this, but I'm really, really eager to see what our scores are looking like when we do this follow-up survey again. Are they the same? Are we still in that safety crisis? Is there some more that we need to do? Or are we on the right path? Are the things that we've implemented, the actions we've taken, really making the difference? We're hoping it will, or we're hoping it does. All right, that was a lot of information, and you will be shocked if you look at the full report to hear that that was only a snippet of all the data that we sifted through. But these are like the most important ones that tie directly in with our strategic plan. So these are the ones that we've really been focusing on and honing in on. And then the others are supporting, or we're looking back and saying, hey, I wonder if there's a need here. So that data is not just overlooked at all. We are constantly looking at it. I do want to take a moment to thank you guys again for having me here as a guest. And I want to wish you guys a wonderful Valentine's Day. I hope you're going to do something other than skating on the ice. And from there, I want to know if you guys have any questions for either me or Superintendent Keefer.
Becca, I have a question. When you do this one, the survey again in April that you're thinking, how long would it be before we get the board is to see the information?
Oh, I mean, it's hard, like the youth truth was a lot of data, which is why it's been pushed back so far. When we do the follow-up survey, it's going to be a Google form, an anonymous Google form. So we'll have the data in real time right away. So once we collect enough participation, we sift it through, I'll create a little presentation that compares how we were at the beginning of the year compared to now. I don't have a timeline, but the goal would be this year. I will take you with a question mark.
Yeah, you know, just my thought would be nice to have before the new year starts. School year
starts. I think we're planning on doing it in April, so I think that's manageable.
You said you're gonna send a complete survey out some point next week?
Yes, so it'll be posted up onto the website in our Youth Truth page that I'm posting all of our information on. I'll have it posted there. There were a few color-coded boxes that were color-coded wrong. And so I want to make sure that I go through the full thing and color code correctly. Like I had some that were marked as yellow, but they were green or vice versa. And so I want to sift through it one more time, and then I'll have it posted up on the website by
It'll be posted in this format or just the raw data?
Both,
Okay.
you'll have.
Brad, was there any response from the last one being
No, it wasn't.
Thank you. And thank you for the goodies.
I love it. Awesome, thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Becca.
And we're gonna get another one next month?
Yeah, so next month is going to be the staff data.
Thank you. All right, we're ready to move on to reports. And Patty.
You. All right, I know that Terry, you have some questions?
I do,
Okay.
so. On page 33. Printing, publishing and duplicating services,
Yes,
you know, we, estimated 80,000, we're only at 42,000. Is that right? We're at, we estimated 80.
43,000 is what we budgeted.
Yeah,
Yes, and the reason,
43.
yeah, and the reason it looks odd is because right now we have this, in January, we got new copiers and printers at a better price on a monthly basis. And so we've overlapped our contract, so we still have encumbered for the other vendor. Well, once that's completely done and paid for, which it should be, then we will take the encumbrance off and potentially not get it. But that's why that looks so funny right now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, along with that same question, there's Canon Financial Services.
That's our new one, yes.
Yeah, okay, and that's what that's what
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, perfect catch on that one, yeah. Canon and Pacific Automation. Canon is our new vendor and Pacific Automation is our.
And, this is on page 41, it says that we spent, 22,000 on psychology.
Yes, we
Explain that.
yes, we purchased psychology services from Willamette JSD. And so we pay Willamette as a vendor to pay the salary for that psychologist.
No, I understand now. I mean, where's that being used in the district?
District wide. Can you elaborate more, Brad, on that?
Well, we have our psychologists working with our special education team, and they are doing and having interviews in schools, at every school.
So more under special ed. Yeah, okay. I didn't know if it was for teachers or what.
More for students,
Yeah.
special education, for students.
For students or the employees, you know? I didn't know where.
How long of a period does this cover? The psychologist, is this for monthly? Is this what we're paying?
They probably billed us for a few months, and that's why it's $41,000, because we budgeted 22,000. Oh, I thought he had said 40. What, page 41?
Yeah.
Yeah.
22.
Yeah, they probably billed us for a few months, and they're not billing us on a monthly basis. Because we budgeted like 92,000, don't quote me on that, but yeah, it's almost a 1 FTE.
That was all the questions. Thank you.
Is there any more questions for our financials? Thank you.
You don't have any auditing type questions I want to ask? Page 31.
Okay, Addie, I'll ask you.
Okay,
Are the books balanced and reconciled?
yes, sir. Yes, we reconcile the bank statements on a monthly basis before our financials can be done. And, yes, they're done on a monthly basis and.
Anyone else have a question?
I just have to ask this one on page 47. Krispy Kreme donuts, Spent $468.
Okay, so what page?
Page 40, well, maybe it's page 12. That's what, page 12, and then.
Gotcha.
$8.
Yes, that is paid out of the high school ASV. So that would be the students, the 273 is the high school ASV, which is student driven dollars. Right here, you can see the 273. And so it was probably done as a fundraiser.
I just know no board members that I know of receive any Krispy Kreme donuts.
You're seeing, just saying, right? Just please.
Sure, legit.
Okay.
Patty, I do have a question. Page 54.
Let me get there.
Yeah.
All right.
What is class of 2025, class of 2022, class of 2023? Is that, are those ASB accounts?
This is ASB 273 is the high school, and what this is our graduating seniors as of that year. So class of 2025, they're probably already fundraising right now for graduation party.
Yeah.
So that's why we have these graduation classes.
Grad night, the parents do a lot of fundraising for grad night.
Yeah.
Do those monies that the parents fundraise for,
No, I
does that
think,
get deposited into these accounts?
no, I think our booster club handles grad night. Is that true, Ren? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I just had to confirm with that. And that goes through their reconciling, their bank.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else have any other questions for Patty? Okay, none. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Superintendent Kickner.
Good evening, Chair Johns, members of the board. It is February. And that means Puxatawny Phil had seen his shadow, so according to Bill Creeder, that means 6 more weeks of winter. I'm gonna hope that winter is over by the end of this month, but we'll see. It looks like tomorrow might be a possibility of some snow. But we'll work with Melody on that one. We'll see in kind of an early morning fall. All kidding aside about the groundhog, February can be a challenging month in terms of weather, but it's a productive time in education. Teachers and students are focused, starting a new semester, beginning the state testing season. February is also Black History Month, and we take time to remember significant individuals in the African American community who contributed a verse to American history. And we're also reminded of our own progress relative to all students, which includes but is not limited to students living in poverty, struggling with learning disabilities, struggling with anxiety and depression, students with different lived experiences, backgrounds, cultures, seeking acceptance and support from their teachers and peers, seeking dignity and respect. We are here for all students, and as our vision statement reads, together we inspire, empower, and prepare all students to succeed. Our strategic plan ensures that we are focusing on all student groups, and our teams are meeting regularly to discuss data, who is struggling, and making plans on how to address those students. I've been very impressed in my strategic planning meetings with principals talking about their goals and the progress they're making on them. I'm very encouraged by the growth and the fact that teachers are liking and using our IXL data platform, and that they are meeting in teams and discussing their goals as well as individual students and making sure all students are being successful. This is year one with our new strategic plan, and much of the work is foundational, building systems and routines and working together as a team. We have work to do, but I wanted to share with you that our progress is significant and steady, and we are well on our way to achieving our goals laid out for the year. So I'm very pleased with that. Next subject is summer school. We have not heard yet if we will be getting another summer learning grant from the state. It's very likely that we will, however, and we'll most likely be focusing our resources when we get those on our elementary school, should those become available. We need to make up gaps in both literacy and summer learning can help us in that regard. So stay tuned. Regarding the governor's budget, next topic. Governor Kotek came out with a 9.9 billion budget for K-12 education, which is an increase of 400 million from her initial starting place. We're encouraged by this. But we are striving for a 10.3 billion budget because that is what is needed to help Jefferson schools recover from the COVID years. That is what we need to fully support our students. To give you one example, we were fortunate enough to receive federal ESSER dollars. That was to help with COVID recovery. That's been very important dollars to help us. And this has allowed us to hire additional resources to help with behavior or learning loss. And when these funds go away next year, after next year, our needs will still remain. So we need a robust state education budget to allow small rural districts like our own to thrive. I have volunteered to our partners at COSA and our partners at Stands for Children to offer my voice in support of increased funding to our legislators. And I was invited to talk with Senator Gelson-Woolen next Monday about early literacy and the needs of our district. I've also invited all of our legislators to Jefferson to tour our schools. No one has taken me up on our invitation yet, but I'm hopeful that I can speak in the near future. Regarding a student representative sitting on the board, I spoke briefly with Jamie last week. We have a meeting scheduled, I believe, next week. And we'll be going over student responsibilities and the role of a student representative. So hope to have Jamie joining us here hopefully next month. Coffee with Kaepner. I continue to meet community members at our local Bronson Brew Coffee shop on many Friday mornings. And I've met and had wonderful conversations with many, and I will continue to reach out in this way. And Director Sonmar sometimes joins us, so thank you. It's always good to hear from Terrence, and I've enjoyed our conversations and making some good connections. Chair Jones asked me earlier today how many people, and I think all total about 15 people. I've been doing that, so it's been good. I'll keep doing it. Next is our Latinx event in April. I recently met with our Latinx design team, and we discussed the challenge of getting parents to attend meetings. And I proposed the idea of holding a cultural event in April in our district facilities or event center. And they liked the idea. And so now they're going to be meeting with their larger committee this month and talking about that possibility and seeing if they can make that happen. That would involve mariachi music and some type of catering, whether that's food trucks or connecting with one of our local restaurants. And it would be open to the entire Jefferson community. So we're looking forward to that. It's a little early yet to say that this is taking place because I'm a little ahead of the committee that's meeting this month, but that's what we've been talking about, and we're hopeful that, and I know there's a lot of excitement. So I want you to know that that's in the air coming up in the next couple of months. I want to talk to you a little about tonight about a school-based health and resource center. It's a major goal for a school district in serving the whole child. And that means, and that translates into removing barriers for learning. For example, if a homeless student doesn't have a backpack or clothing, or clean clothing, or hygiene supplies, sometimes they don't attend school. That's a barrier. And so we have issues with attendance. We want to remove the barriers to get kids in school. This is just one example, but you can imagine that there are a lot of different barriers for kids. Another goal for us is to build meaningful partnerships with our community. We have a wonderful possibility to do both. Currently, we have a donor who has pledged $100,000 to bring in a construction team and renovate our old band room and convert it into a school-based health and resource center. The donor is Larry Tatarski. He is the person who built Willamette Career Academy and Salem CTV Center. He likes supporting kids and seniors. Those are his passions. And I met with him over lunch several months ago. And he has since reached out to me and said he would like to help us with this project. When we talked about our needs for the district, we gave him a bunch of ideas, one being the track and, you know, different ideas. He really liked the idea of a student-based health and resource center because it appeals to his, what he gives money for. The community, seniors, students. And he likes the idea of breaking down barriers and helping families. This center would be a place to offer free clothing and toiletries for our household students. It would have a laundry room to wash clothes for students who need that support. It would be a place for students to meet with mental health professionals. It could be a place to support our senior citizens, maybe to obtain free legal advice on someone. If we had an attorney interested in giving some pro bono work through maybe a bar association. We have reached out to Sandy Ann Health, and they are very interested in partnering with us. They haven't committed to that because we have to be able to come up with the funding and make it a real, they said, come back to us when this is real, but we like the idea. If we were to partner with them, they would be staffing the center with medical professionals who would give checkups to kids, sports exams, help students who are struggling to get into the doctor with immediate care. We could potentially have dental screenings. School districts around Oregon are building these centers. They're popping up to help their students and children. And I went to visit the one in Newburgh recently and got a tour, and theirs is making a significant impact. So we're still early into the process, and currently we have people engaging with the county and with other major donors to see if they can come up with the rest for the project. And we, if we can secure the funding, and the total estimate is being made and presented to me in the next several weeks. So all their engineers and architects came out and surveyed and looked at everything, and now they're going back and they're going to do a full-on proposal. And they're going to look to see what the costs would estimate. Larry Tatarski's team would come in and do it. And he is even potentially willing to front the money up front and get reimbursed from other donors. We've said, hold off on that right now because we want to see if we can get those donors and we'll secure with that. But in other words, Larry Tatarski is willing to try to help us out with it. In short, their work would include keeping the four walls, but gutting the inside and building offices, laundry room, replacing carpeting, potentially furniture, making it a space that meets the standards for Samaritan health professionals. Exam rooms have to be certain sizes, all that. They would have that all done, figured out. To this point, it has been an idea. It hasn't been a reality, and now it's moving from an idea to a plan. And it's time to promote the idea to our community and parents. And so my team will be publicizing and making sense of this center to the community in the next month. And in the meantime, we're engaging donors, and once we have the donor secured, we'll reach out again to Samaritan Health with a proposal. So this is pretty exciting. And it, like I said, it started off as, could this happen? Is this an idea? And we're moving now to let's do this, and looking at for donors to make it happen, make it finalized. Pause there for questions. I have a couple other things before I move on. Is there any questions on that?
You said Sandy Ann, and then you put Samaritan, so.
I meant Samaritan. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Just wanted to clarify.
That's great.
Is Newburgh the closest school that has one of these in operation already?
Yes. Okay, moving on. HVAC. I'll provide a handout to you. This is my the last piece of my report tonight. Want to revisit our HVAC work at the high school. When the board approved moving forward with fixing the control board, putting up the fans and having Fluent create an energy model, it did so according to the estimate provided by Fluent, which is the first few numbers up on the top of that page. Fluent doesn't perform the control board work, so when we went out to bid for that work, their estimate was a little under what the companies are currently bidding. We have not communicated with any of the bidders at this point, but we are finding the bids to be higher than our estimate. I have provided you with a handout. I prefer no names of the companies to be discussed in an open forum or the bids, but due to the fact that we have not communicated with them, but I have provided a summary so you can have some context. My purpose tonight in bringing this back to the board is to approve additional $12,500 so that we can move forward with this work. And the handout, I tried to briefly summarize what the cost estimate was, a little bit of information of the bids coming in, and then as you see down below, additional funds needed, and then some explanations underneath there for why the additional funding. I also have Jerry in here in case there was something more technical that you could help.
Are these bids not public information? At all?
Well, they're all public. They've been submitted, and so we're not. We haven't made a decision, and we haven't informed anyone yet. So we want to be careful.
How much did the board vote to allow for this?
It was the 93, right? Yeah, it's the 93,000. The total number up top.
Brad, this money is coming from which account that we okay, from the loan.
So I'm kind of lost here a little bit. Trying to, so these three companies, without saying their names, is the total of all three of these? Is what the total would be?
No. So the one below the last
Yeah.
one is a full bid. that where everything is out. The other two, say that we need to pay them that first and then they will bid.
Okay, well, so the last one there, the total is 87.5, correct? And that's less than 93, so why do you need another 12,000?
Because that doesn't account for the energy model from Flow. That's just the work for the new control system and the heaters and things. So when you add the energy model back, then it makes it really need 12,000.
Did any of these three companies have access to the energy model? And did they take it into account at all when they, well, I guess only one place an actual bid, correct?
They all had the information available to them that Fluid provided. They had all the specs.
These were the only respondents.
Well, respondents, and there's very few companies that do this work, and in our area, so there's the ones who responded. We also in talking with a couple of ones, they said that they would start at 40,000 as the estimate.
How was it advertised?
We didn't have to go out for proposal, it was less than 150,000. We called companies and got, based on recommendations from Fluid, called the companies to see if we can get an estimate. And one provided the estimate and two wanted money down before they could give an estimate.
I'm gonna have to recuse myself. I have a relative that works for one of these companies.
So if you add those three figures up, 87.5 and 18,610 and 7,500, it comes to what?
Those are three different companies.
The total cost is gonna be 105.5.
Or does it say
I
that?
think the
Okay, you have to
93,000 at the top, plus the 12,500 extra that Brad is looking for approval. That gives us a grand total of 105.5.
And is that an estimate or is that
No, that's
a
the bid.
contracted price?
That's what they said it will be.
Because in addition to paying the 87.5, we also have to pay the 18 to Flume for the work they've done. That's where the difference comes in with the 12.5.
So I appreciate you coming forward and asking us about it tonight. And letting us know this. So.
I'll entertain a motion. It's not there on the motion sheet.
I'm gonna say before the vote, just my 2 cents, obviously, basically, we're looking at one quote here. And I'm uncomfortable with approving, this dollar amount with only one quote, and the fact that it wasn't advertised, and we're going off the recommendation of.
Well, okay, I appreciate your point of view. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please go ahead and finish commenting.
I would like to see more than one quote. And I think there's other companies out there that will give us a quote, without needing a computer system monitor before bidding. Or the cost of that, I don't even understand.
Yes, I guess my question along with Fred's would be, how many people did we actually reach out to?
I think we're following the letter of the law, but why not put this out on a very popular form of advertising and say Salem Contractors Exchange, and I see Tracy on his bed. It's a very common way, and it reaches probably almost every single HVAC and sheet metal company in the state.
My point of view is, we've had our high schoolers for more than a year waiting for this system to come in. In fact, when Jamie was here, I believe in October, we had voted that we would move quickly so that the children would have heat and cooling in the building. And I feel that we have something that will get us started and get us the new controls that we need. Even if we don't get the fans in the gym, I mean, if you take the fans from the gym that they were going to put in, to push the air down. You take that off, we're under budget, and we could get the new control system, which would help to be able to, without needing the extra $1,200, and it would get done. We would get the control system in and be able to keep that piece working.
Did they give you?
Tracy?
Point of information. So average 2,600 square foot house, heating and air conditioning system installed, right at about $19,000. How many square feet are we taking care of?
How much of the existing system are we reusing? I mean,
Understood, Fred. It's much larger building than 2,600 square foot. So I'd like to put that out there just for consideration purposes. Not that we're revamping the whole thing, ripping it out, putting it in. The dynamics and everything that are involved in this are significant. And I agree with Dave Jones that we need to put forth some statements that we will get this taken care of. But I understand where Fred's coming from too. So.
What would the time frame be, or?
Brad?
Is it gonna affect this school year at all? That's my question.
I think one of our desires is to move this along so that we can get them scheduled for as soon as possible. I don't want to move this into mid next year. I would like to have this done this summer. My fear is to delay, go back to the drawing board, go through that whole process. It's gonna put us out several more months. And we don't necessarily know that it's gonna be anything less. In fact, now that this has been posted, I mean, it could be coming back even higher, and then we're looking at higher, coming at the same or higher. So, I am wanting to see if the board is interested in the 12,005 to help us to move forward, or if not, then we look at maybe some other options as to maybe doing this without fans after this year, and then so that we can get a control board, because we need to be able to see the system needs to be able to see what's going on at that school. Last 2 weeks ago, it was 80 something degrees in one of the rooms, and kids were sweltering. And so Jerry had to go and try to fix it. And I don't know all the details of what he did, but I know that he had to do something to fix it in one of the rooms. And so that caused, we have issues. That's what I'd like to get on.
Eddie, what page in the budget is the energy bills for the high school?
I already looked at that, Tracy.
Did you, Terry?
It's pretty close to the rest of the year.
Yeah.
In past month.
Yeah.
Or the month of April.
Yeah.
I was looking at that. Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion that we add another 12,500 to the original Jefferson High School HVAC improvement fund.
Second. I'll second the motion. We'll call for, is there further discussion?
Yeah, I don't know who was responsible for, making some phone calls to get some more quotes here, but, I don't know if this is a good deal or if it's 20% over the next quote or 30 or 50. I have no clue. And I would hope that, and I feel for the kids in these classrooms, and I don't want them, I don't want them to have any, distractions from learning. They have enough distractions, but, I think we let the taxpayers down on this deal. Not getting more quotes and not advertising. That's all this.
Well, yeah, I think, none of these companies know, or we haven't given them the bid yet, correct?
You're not aware.
No. So, if this money does get approved tonight and we get hold of, say, the last company on here, and they say, well, we can't get to it till summer or fall, then I would agree wholeheartedly with what Fred's talking about. I'd go out and see if you can find somebody else to do it. You know, I understand, and that might be the best way to do it anyway, because, I don't think they're gonna get it, even if they put it in. If this goes through and we let them know tomorrow that, okay, we've approved this, and they say, well, we can't do it till July, they didn't get help us this year anyway. So it might not be a bad idea to just get some other, see if there's some other company. Yeah.
Any further comments or questions?
Yes.
Okay,
Understanding the urgency of the situation, you could go as far as to amend the motion to say we approve funds up to 105,500 and give direction to the district office to pursue additional bids before final award.
Well, I think that's what it is.
He's talking about going with a specific company like that.
No, right.
So
We're not bidding on the company, we're just bidding on the additional funds, correct?
we're approving the additional funds that we could give direction from the district office to pursue additional bids through proper notice, or by using the San Juan Plans Exchange to see if it's possible to get this work done less expensive and get the project done in a full time event if we're out there until the summer. So.
all right.
At this point, we don't know if we're out.
Pardon?
We don't know if we're out.
No, we don't know.
At this point in time, let's go to the question. Tracy, you have declared conflict.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute, I'd like to comment on that. Tracy, we don't know who's gonna get the bid in. So you can vote on the money.
I'm going to declare conflict.
Okay.
So.
Fred,
No,
Dewey, Chris, Terry,
Yeah, yes.
and Kate, yay, it goes down. So we don't have an approval for additional funding.
So what do we want to do next on this? We want to, take the fans out, or do we want to tell Brad to look for other bids, or what kind of direction are we gonna give?
I think we have to go with more bids and better comparisons, so that we know where we're at.
My only concern was, is that he said, in order to get bids from two companies, they want $25,000 in order to give us a bid.
But you don't have to do that through the San Juan Plans Exchange.
Okay,
nobody will require or request funds up front for bidding.
That's uncommon for me to see. In my profession, so that, it was confusing, so I'm glad you brought that up, Terry. I need as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
It still goes back to Terry's question. What do we want to direct our superintendent to do?
You guys been on board a lot longer than me. Is there, if we do get, a couple more quotes, do we have to wait till the next board meeting to vote on it?
We don't have to vote on it at all. It's a day-to-day operations. As our superintendent does the day-to-day operations, once we've approved funding, he has to operate within the funds we've allotted.
But I don't know what funds I feel comfortable with until
We've already approved
The 93.
93.
So if we go out and get two more quotes and one of them falls under that 93, we can move forward with it at that time.
But it's not ours to move forward. It's
It is.
our superintendent's
Brad
job.
can move forward with it at that time.
We also might get hired.
True.
Pardon?
We also might get hired.
That's
Lots of building things are going on.
No, I just, for me, it's all, I mean, when I get a bid like that and I get a bid from somebody else and I've had multiple from the dealerships and everything else that I dealt with for years. When I go back in there and say, hey, you know what, hey, I'm interested in your thing, can you cut 10% of it? Then you ask the question, all they can say is no. I mean, and granted, I'm not bound by some of the legalities of everything else because it's not a public situation. But at the same time, I never once spent any of the money without having 3 actual bids to do exact comparisons and then have conversations with them over the phone before we move forward to spend $100,000 on, retrofitting the system or upgrading the system or, I mean, that's just what I've dealt with on my end of it for years. Needing positive vibes. Yeah. I know, you want to move forward. I would love to be able to just move something in there in some kind of a temporary system that we could, use. Or rent or, vice versa, type thing at a reasonable thing.
The way to do this is to get the control board in and look at the fans later and budget that for next year. Look, this is we have to have the fans right there.
True. Well, Brad, that's a decision you can make, because that's day to day. If you're working in that limit of 93,000 and you can get the controls done without fans, and you feel that that's the way we need to go, then that's your decision.
Right, I think, is everyone agreeing that we've got a given direction?
Yeah.
I believe so.
All right, then we'll move on in our agenda. 7A, classified appreciation week. Tracy, would you read the resolution, please?
Yes. Resolution number 2022-2023. To proclaim classified appreciation week, whereas the education of youth is essential to the future of our community, state, county, and the world. And whereas classified employees are the backbone of our public education system. And whereas classified employees work directly with students, educators, parents, volunteers, business partners, and community members. And whereas classified employees support the smooth operation of offices, the safety and maintenance of buildings and property, and the safe transportation, healthy nutrition, and direct instruction of students. And whereas our community depends upon and trusts classified employees to serve students, and whereas classified employees with their diverse talents and true dedication nurture students throughout their school years. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Jefferson School District Board of Directors proclaim March sixth through the 10th, 2023 to be classified employee appreciation month, and be it further resolved that the Jefferson School District 14J Board of Directors strongly encourages all members of our community to join in this observance, recognizing the dedication and hard work of these individuals. Adopted this 13th day of February 2023.
Right, thank you. Carrie. You want to say something? Okay, any motion?
I move that we, I move to accept resolution 23 -02-001 to proclaim classified appreciation week, the week of March 6th through 10th of 2023.
Okay, there's a. Yes, so. Tracy?
We need a second.
Oh, a second.
I'll second that.
Fred will second it. All right, Tracy.
Aye.
Fred.
A big eye.
Aye.
Carrie.
Aye.
Kate Jones, aye. Motion carries. All right, next on our agenda is the request for an overnight trip for the Avid 12th graders. You have that in your packet.
A long day.
I have a question on that, how is the collecting made for who's going in the future?
Part of our admin class. Okay. So I have signed up with the class and like everything's happening.
I move to accept the out-of-state Avid field trip to Seattle, Washington on May 6th, 2023.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, Tracy Rowe,
Aye.
Fred Stottlemyre,
Aye.
Julie Robbins,
Aye.
Terry Kamalotti,
Aye.
Kate Jones, aye. Motion carries.
I do have one question. I could not find it. Here it is. Maybe it's, how many parents chaperone? 2 to 4. Okay.
All right, next on our agenda is the Budget Committee calendar.
I move that we accept the 2023 proposed budget calendar as stated, as written.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Seeing none. The motion is to accept the first draft of the 2023-2024 Budget Committee calendar. Tracy Rowe, all right, at this point, our current Budget Committee is short 5 community members, and in your packet, we received applications from 4 individuals willing to serve on our Budget Committee.
Bob just went to me, he said he could.
Well, he needs to fill out an application. There are applications.
Right.
I did mention it. So I did offer it to someone else. Of these 4 individuals that have been nominated, we have a 2 3-year term, 2 2-year terms, and 1 1-year term. And so, 2 of the nominees have their terms expired in June and therefore would be eligible to do another 3 years. And so, those are 2 of the members that are interested. And then we have 2 that could do the 2-year terms. And so I am entertaining motions.
I move to accept Larry Wells, Suzanne Dwyer.
Okay, just a second. Will you let Fred start? Because he's got years involved. Sorry about that.
Well, now I'm nervous. So, I move to accept Larry Wells and Melinda Myers Budget Committee application and appoint them to the Jefferson School District Budget Committee for the 3-year terms ending June 2026. And also,
So we need a second for that.
we got it.
We
Okay.
gotta do them separately.
Second.
We got this.
Okay.
I'll sit on the side.
For Larry Wells and Melinda Myers to take 3-year terms for the Budget Committee. Tracy Rowe,
Aye.
Fred Sotomayor,
Aye.
Huey Robbins, Terry Kumline,
Aye.
Kay Jones, aye. So we have 2 members for 3-year terms.
I also move to accept Suzanne Dwyer and Sarah McCullough's Budget Committee applications and appoint them to the Jefferson School District Budget Committee for 2-year terms ending June 2025.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote. Tracy,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Dewey,
Aye.
Carrie. Kate, aye. So we now have 4 members. We have until,
Bob.
no, you can't. We don't have.
Well, we're gonna get some food before
We have until next month to complete our committee, which will give us.
Mr. Roll.
You're here anyway.
That's right.
We have no community members signed up.
I told comment if you don't mind.
Bob Rossiter from City is their liaison.
Thank you for allowing me this. I actually didn't think I had anything until Superintendent Gapinger brought up the thing of the Health and Resource Center. And I got excited. After the city is having to deal with the homeless crisis. And we've had to remodel a major portion of our planning and how we do things. And so this portion is really exciting to me. And since it's so closely linked, I'd like to just let you know that the city is interested in making sure we're in the loop on this one, because we're going to be having things as well. We still have more changes to make. And so because this has been brought up, I just wanted to put it out there that the city is interested in this information. So I'd like to work together with you on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I did not change the agenda at the time. If the board doesn't mind, I would like to move board comments until we return to general regular session. At this time, we need to adjourn to executive session pursuant ORS 192.660 (2) F to consider information or records exempt by law from public inspection. And if you're interested in coming back at the end to hear our decision when we get back into where might they can wait in their cars and come out or whatever. So we're going to adjourn to executive session here at 8:05.